So, the next thing that happens. So, Amazon suspends Parler. Or at least they said they're going to suspend Parler. This whole thing is the most hypocritical shit that I have witnessed in terms of big tech and how people view or how these companies are treating other competing companies. And what's hilarious to me is that they're saying that it's because Amazon, Apple, Google, they have warned Parler several times to quote unquote moderate their site, which is funny because Parler actually does moderate their site, and they have what's called broadcasting rules. So they actually are more restrictive than Twitter. But, you know, they're saying that, well, Parler, they need to comply with these rules in order to not get suspended. They have to remove these posts. I did see Tim Pool bring up a good point in that, you know, apparently like the FBI and things of that nature don't want them to take down the post because they're doing an investigation. So now it becomes a situation of, do you work with law enforcement so they can get the information they need, investigate and see, possibly arrest anyone who is truly inciting violence or making serious threats? Or do you not do that and delete the parlays, as they call them? You delete those in order to keep your hosting your web services, to keep your app on these major app stores, just Apple and Google Play Store, the two biggest ones. And do you do that in order to keep your site going? But I mean, beyond that, this is just big tech companies throwing their weight around, and they're saying it. They're not even enforcing these rules evenly across the various platforms that they host, like Twitter. If you go on Twitter, especially during the riots post George Floyd, when the riots were going on, they did not suspend any leftists, I should say, that were calling for violence, that were saying that this, is the voice of the unheard, and when you aren't heard, then this is the route you have to take, and this was the good. Telling people not to do this was either racist or it was going against the oppressed, and not letting the oppressed voice their opinions or showcase their frustrations. Everybody, all these athletes, social media outlets, celebrities, all of these individuals and all of these companies were quiet when this was going on Twitter. Hell, Twitter has ISIS on their platform, and ISIS doesn't even get regulated the way they have been regulating the moderates and conservatives in the United States. And what's funny to me is that they tell you, you need to create your own platforms. And we've heard this all throughout, like, for instance, Comicsgate, or when the whole comic of people was happening. And I think, what was that, 2017, 2018, when that was all going on, they were constantly tell people they need to create their own comics. They need to do their own things. And then when people started doing that, they then quickly went to shut them down, saying that they were inciting hate speech, or they promoted hate speech, and that they're terrible people, and these comics and these things need to get shut down. So this is a constant tactic of the establishment left. And I'm not even going to say like the progressive left and the far leftists, because the far leftists and progressive left are just tools for the establishment left. And that's the thing. The left, or the progressive left, the far leftists, they are being taken for a ride by the establishment left, so the establishment left can continue to dominate culturally, politically, so on and so forth. And you see these individuals cheering for the the platforming of Parler. They're cheering for the taking down of these various websites, saying that they are conspiratorial. I think even here in this article it says it somewhere that the Parler was hosting conspiracy theorists and things of that nature, but they don't care about the conspiracy theories or the things that are coming out of the left as well. They just act as though the right is the only conspiratorial side, and is everything else is set in stone, and the truth that is coming from their political bent and their political leaning. That's all true, but anything coming from anything coming from the right, that's all conspiratorial. And I mean, it's not like, QAnon and things aren't a real thing. They are, and a lot of those people are delusional, and a good portion of what they believe. But to act as though this is only coming from one side, or only one side needs to be curtailed, is blatant hypocrisy. And you're seeing what the left is doing in terms of using not only the state but the cultural institutions to shut down opposing speech. And you don't even have to be conservative, or I should say, you don't even have to be a far rightist in order for them to shut you down. They're just shutting down anyone that doesn't align with them. And right now they're going after Trumpism and everything that comes along with Trumpism, which is the idea and the thought process of essentially the populist right, or just populism that isn't far leftist progressive populism. So, I mean, there are, like, they're talking about Linwood, and Linwood, I don't know, this man, I don't know if he's I don't know if he's doing this on purpose or he actually believes these things, but he didn't help. And most people, a good portion of people, didn't agree with Linwood. But, that doesn't really matter. And it doesn't matter to these people. I mean, what really got me was the Twitter permanently banning Trump. And then so Trump couldn't tweet from his personal account, couldn't tweet from the POTUS account, the government account, and then his team account. He couldn't tweet from any three of those. And they cited the policy of people trying to use other accounts to circumvent their banning or suspension. And it just, what you're seeing right now is, like a few other commentators have said, the merging of the political left and the state. The political leftists, I should say, because the political left and leftists aren't the same thing. But the political leftists, you're seeing the merging of them and the state, which in all actuality just makes them fascists, which is quite fucking hilarious because, anyway, they don't even realize that fascism and socialism and communism, these are all sides of the same coin. They just come at it from different bents and different angles. But really, the means of which that they use their authority to shut down opposing speech, they use the us versus them mentality, the tribe mentality, and they use the othering of individuals to garner more power and to garner support from the populace is the same. But these individuals don't realize that. And what's funny to me is they're going to be next. The establishment left is not going to tolerate the populist left or anybody that may upheave what the establishment left is, unless the populist left, unless the radical left ends up taking over and kicking them, ousting them out of power. But they'll be next. They'll use these same precedents they're setting of the banning of people, the allowing of these big tech corporations to deem and judge who gets a platform, where they get a platform, and things of that nature, which will further radicalize individuals when you start suppressing speech like this. But they'll allow, they don't realize that they will be next once all the other individuals, the far right, assume a lot of the far right have already been banned. Now they're coming after regular conservatives and Trump supporters specifically. When those are banned, I'll be next, and part of the centrist and the center left individuals who will be next, and then they will be next. Hell, they might get lumped in with me. Funny enough, but the average person is politically unaware of things that are going on beyond what they are being told to believe by the establishment left, the mainstream left, and these talking heads that have over the last 4 years become more and more radicalized and more totalitarian and authoritarian as the first term of Donald Trump has come and now is about to go. So, I mean, this should scare anybody that sees this. The power that big tech is having over discourse and who is allowed to say what. That billionaires, hilariously now, because the leftists are loving these billionaires that are taking down these websites and taking this speech and destroying this side of the speech, the political aisle. They're loving this right now. There are a few of them apparently that, if you go on Twitter, they are like, they realize that this could happen to them, and they're questioning why people are okay with this, and they aren't denouncing it hard enough, but they're questioning it, which is interesting. So this is just the justification of, they're just saying, and this one actually wasn't, this New York Times article actually wasn't the worst that I read. They're really just saying that this is becoming a test of free speech and what is allowed and what we, Parler has now become a test case in renewed national debate over free speech on the internet, and where the tech giants such as Facebook, Google, Apple, and Amazon have too much power. Anybody who is seeing this going on, who is getting decent information, who isn't just getting mainstream media, because I already know they're saying that Parler is the worst thing in the world. They're showcasing certain screen caps and things of that nature of people calling for violence, and there were people calling for violence on Parler, but they, like I said, don't showcase the equivalent. And what more so happened over the last, when did the George Floyd stuff start? When was that? Like April-ish, March? But over the course of that's 7 months. over the course of that, they didn't say anything. Over the course of the riots happened between them, it was about 5 months, but over that course, you saw the same thing coming from leftists on Twitter, coming from Antifa on Twitter. The same calls for violence, the same calls for doxing, the same calls for political violence being enacted on individuals that don't agree with them. Hell, you saw the Trump supporter that ended up getting stopped and shot, things of that nature. These things have been happening. They did not care. They did not say anything. Now they're trying to turn around and say these are private platforms because these individuals have no principle, and they will go around and say, well, this is a private company. They have their private rights and things of that nature, and they should be allowed to do what they want. But then turn around when it's towards them, it's overreach. It's not fair. And that's points to the fact that most leftists, they don't have any principles by which they stand on. They just are about power grabbing and getting political dominance over individuals they deem unworthy, and just over the United States in general, because they feel that they're the smartest individuals that had the foresight. They believe they have the foresight to see where the United States needs to go, but all they'll do is tear this country apart. And I mean, you saw it with Brandon Straka. This started a couple days ago. I mean, I'm kind of late to this party here, but it's worrying. It's really worrying. Like I said, and I had made another video about Just free speech platforms. And my first video on this channel was other, not free speech platforms, but alternative platforms to start grabbing power away from the big tech corporations. And that's going to be more needed than ever. And not just in terms of going to different platforms, but you're going to have to also create, you're going to have to also create the infrastructure that will be the backbone for these other platforms, such as payment processors, web hosting sites. You're going to have to create, you're going to have to create all these things as well to prop up what would be the opposition to Google, Apple, Amazon. You're unfortunately, that's where we're gonna have to go. I don't know. I mean, it's just quite funny. Whereas, they keep calling that this is okay because these are private platforms, they won't allow for these small businesses and these small mom and pop stores and things of that nature to open back up. They're allowed to service the public, but these big corporations and things, they'll lick the boot of these organizations when it's convenient, but then turn around and complain about these organizations having too much power and need to do more. I mean, they don't even, I don't think these people even realize that most of the employed by small and medium companies, not these big mega corporations, these international globalist corporations who they seem to want to have all the control so they can, it just seems to me that they want these corporations to have control, to center the power, to then merge that power with the state. I mean, in their eyes, they want the people to control the means of production. It's just tyranny by the state, and it's just the merger of the state and the corporation and the big corporations to have complete dominance on what you consume, what you buy, and what you have, and what you're able to see. It's all it is. And I realize that most of the people in my peer group and in my brother's peer group, my younger brother, are stupid. They're not that smart of individuals, and they don't know shit about shit, and they don't understand where this may lead to, and they think this is all good, and because they want government to have more control and have more ability to tell you what to do, while at the same time complaining about said government. It's idiotic. But anyway, I'm gonna end it here. Thank you guys. Appreciate you guys watching me. Like, comment, and subscribe. I will have the BitChute, the Parler, and I do have a Minds account. I need to get that back going and use that as well. So if you guys are on there, that will be there in the links as well. You can follow me there. Well, I have more videos with Shawnee. Those, again, are more pop culture videos. Just when we're getting into heavier topics and things of that nature, I'm going to be the one talking about those. But in terms of pop culture and things of that nature, it'll be me and Shawnee that'll do those. So eventually you guys will have those. I have a bunch others that we recorded, but I did not finish editing those to put those out. I could have did it on my vacation, but look, we needed some time, especially Shawnee, who is trying her best to get new employment. Fortunately, she was one of the people, due to the lockdowns, that lost their employment. So she needed time to, decompress, unwind, and just have fun. So we did that. That was great. But I'm hitting the ground running going this year and going forward. And I hope you guys will stay along for the ride. So again, appreciate it. You guys have a great rest of your day, rest of your night, whenever you're watching this. Again, thank you for watching. And it's been DJ from the Culture War, and I'm out.